Hello and welcome to Legalese 123. I'm your host, Missy K. Thanks for joining me in my first ever podcast about what's going on in the legal world. We take you to Massachusetts. Once again, here we are with the Commonwealth versus Aidan Kearney. Or, well, I guess we could say Aidan Kearney versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So today we're talking about the Commonwealth versus Aidan Kearney. And as I said, we should rephrase it to Aidan versus the Commonwealth. So if you aren't familiar with Mr. Kearney, let me give you a quick recap. In fact, actually, let's let him introduce himself. So here we go. Well, we're trying to add it to the stage, and we don't know what we're doing.
My name is Aidan Kearney. This is my program, my YouTube presentation. You can call me a variety of nicknames if you like. You can call me Turtle Boy. You know, it's a lot of people just call me Turtle Boy, Uncle Turtle Boy. I prefer Doctor Turtle Boy because those are my pronouns. And if Judd Welcher gets to be a doctor, then I definitely get to be a doctor as well. You can call me, Daddy, Crowd Daddy. You can call me Journalism Jesus, A. Timothy Kearney. That's my true crime name and my Facebook name. Follow me on there. I don't care what you call me. Let me just introduce myself to those people who are new.
Well, there you go. So there you go. That is Mr. Kearney. So that was him giving his introduction. So who is Aidan Kearney? Well, he once was a high school teacher and his hobby started in blogging and he had a love of sports, created Turtle Boy Sports. He then broadened his horizons and started writing investigative articles. He is the proponent of the First Amendment and wrote a book about censorship. So in 2018, Kearney had uh, reported the Massachusetts State Police had alleged misconduct regarding a canine trooper's history of drug dealing and money laundering. And this led the Massachusetts State Police implementing new background checks and hiring protocols. So Aiden started way before he got involved with the Karen Reed case. Did you know that in 2019, the ACLU represented Kearney in a case against a person who was sued Turtle Boy over libel, and the judge ordered him to remove his posts? The case was dismissed on the fact that Rhode Island didn't have jurisdiction in Massachusetts. So, Aiden isn't your typical news journalist you see on TV. Perhaps his tactics and methods are controversial to others, but he does get attention and people trust him and they end up feeding him information and he reports on what he believes. So, here is, uh, we're going to pause this for a second and we're going to bring on um, a new thing that is Mr. Cosgrove, who is the special prosecutor for Aidan Kearney. We're going to go ahead and share his takes on what he calls Aidan's um, YouTube. So as you see, this is Mr. Cosgrove right here in the gray suit. And next to him is Tim Bradle, who is Aidan Kearney's attorneys, who are fighting over the witness intimidation charges, which we'll get into soon enough here. So what can we say? So, Aidan was a huge investigative force in the Karen Reed case. And again, if you haven't heard of the Karen Reed case, we're going to go over that here in just a second. So, who is Karen Reed and how is Aidan connected? Well, Karen Reed was dating Boston police officer John O'Keefe. And in January of 2022, after going to two bars, they decided to go to a house in Canton, Massachusetts, which is 34 Fairview. And this happened to be the home of Boston police officer Brian Albert. Karen had dropped John off and left to go back to John's house. She didn't want to go into the party that was continuing at the Albert's home. So, sometime in the early morning during a blizzard, she realizes that John hadn't returned home, and she goes out looking for him, calling Jen McCabe, who was one of the she's a relative of somebody in the house, as well as Carrie Roberts, who was a friend of John O'Keefe's. If you want more about the Karen Reed case, go to any Law Tubers channel and they will give you the breakdown of the Karen Reed case. At one point, I will go ahead and start going through the Karen Reed case because it is voluminous. There is police corruption. There is allegations of tampering with witnesses. There's allegations of planting evidence. There's text messages. There's police corruption. There are witnesses lying on the stand. Karen Reed was tried not once, but twice for John O'Keefe's death, in which the FBI got involved and they did a deep dive into his case and ended up getting mountains of evidence, which they ended up turning over to Karen Reed's defense, which then begged the question, did she really hit him? They had hired their own experts from ARCA who said, not really. She didn't hit him with a car. His injuries aren't indicative of a car crash. Long story short, first trial ended in a mistrial, which some people believe she was actually acquitted, but there was some legal hoops that people had to jump through and they couldn't declare it an acquittal. So the Commonwealth quickly tried her again, even hired a special prosecutor, Hank Brennan, because apparently Adam Lawley, who is the district attorney of Massachusetts, decided he wasn't good enough. They couldn't use him to try the case again. So long story short, Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe and Karen Reed go and find John's body on the lawn at 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. But nobody quite knows what happened to John O'Keefe. There were approximately 9 people in the house that night. None of them said that when they left, they didn't see John's body on the lawn. And Karen was charged with the second-degree murder and driving while under the influence. As I mentioned, the first was a mistrial, and her second one, she got acquitted and she ended up getting an OUI. But it was the most expensive OUI charge in Massachusetts state history, going somewhere over $1 million plus. The tally the bills are still coming in. They're still trying to figure out exactly how much it costs the Commonwealth to try her a second time. So how is Aidan connected to this case? Well, it turns out that, her defense lawyers were piecing together what happened. And it appeared that John's injuries didn't match him being hit by a car because maybe there was a cover up. So in April 2023, Kearney began covering her case. He was very instrumental in speaking to witnesses before the police did, because the police thought it was Karen right away. They didn't even think that it was anybody else in the house. They barely even talked to witnesses. But Aidan was very vocal about Karen's innocence, and so other people then came and talked to him. One such person they found out was the plow driver. Remember, there was a blizzard happening during all of this investigative work, and so the plows started happening around 2:33 a.m. Aidan found Lucky Lochran, who Lucky had plowed 34 Fairview between 2:30 and 2:45 a.m., and he didn't see a body on the lawn. He did report seeing which was not supposed to be there was a Ford Edge parked on the street where John's body was found. Coincidentally, Brian Albert owns a Ford Edge. Was it his on the street? Because during plow times, all streets must be cleared. So Carney provided this information to Karen's defense team as well as other leads and information. He also uncovered a connection between police investigating the crime and all of the people inside 34 Fairview. Canton is a very small town, and pretty much everybody knows everybody. Most of the police that police the town live there, went to high school together. They pretty much know everybody. So this furthered the idea that perhaps there was a cover up and, maybe there was some colluding happening. So as he continued to expose people and the coincidences such as text mails, emails, butt dials, police failing to investigate, Google searches, secret friendships, Aidan wanted to be part of the investigative journalism in all of this. He found secret friendships. He wandered down a deep, dark hole of investigating who possibly could have done this to John O'Keefe. Because remember, John O'Keefe's injuries did not match him being hit by a car. He didn't have any broken bones. He didn't have any injuries to his legs. He didn't. If she hit him, it's potentially that it would have hit his leg instead. And he didn't have any bruising or broken bones or any sort of swelling in his leg area. Um, he did have abrasions on his arm, which people indicate was from a dog bite or dog scratches, not necessarily from a broken taillight. So he wrote about many different things and even uncovered and discussed this on his podcast or his YouTube presentation, as Cosgrove calls it. So he was one of the proponents of the Free Karen Read movement because he brought awareness to the people. And part of his activism was that he arranged for protests in Canton to support Reed, and he did coin the phrase Free Karen Read. So on December 2023, he was charged with 8 counts of witness intimidation, 3 counts of conspiracy to intimidate witnesses, picketing a witness, and all of these witnesses were set to testify in Karen Reed's trial 1, and then eventually trial number 2. Now, all witnesses didn't testify in trial number 2, but some of them were asked to go into witness to trial number 2. So in May of 2025, he was indicted again on witness intimidation at D&E Pizza. He was talking to the window of the shop and that the shop was closed at the time. Well, D&E Pizza is owned by Chris Albert. Chris Albert is the brother of Brian Albert, who owns 34 Fairview. So Chris Albert is one of the witnesses that is on Aidan's initial case of being charged with witness intimidation. So D&E is owned by Chris, and Chris's son Colin was also at D&E Pizza. Apparently he was in the back. The shop was closed. Aidan didn't have any idea that he was there, and he was what we call jokingly intimidating the window at D&E Pizza. He didn't know that there were cameras filming him. There was cameras outside and apparently a camera inside. And not only did it record him, but it also recorded his voice, which might be illegal in Massachusetts for a 2-party consent to record your voice. Anyways, so what are the importances of all of these charges? Well, again, you may not like Aidan Kearney and you may not like his tactics, but one could compare him to Howard Stern, who is labeled as a shock jock. He gets people talking and he brings up issues and topics and calls people out for their actions. Did he actually intimidate witnesses? So, if we look at the statute in Massachusetts, what is exactly witness intimidation? Well, you possibly can read this for yourself. Does some of the stuff that he's done fall underneath this? Possibly. Um, is it the actual women witness intimidation? Well, some people think of the olden days where the mob would be like, I'm going to wipe you out if you testify. So, could that actually be what he did? He didn't do that. But he did have something called the rolling rally. And in that, um, he did, let's see if I can find it here. One second. So here is one of his times that he was in front of the courthouse at Karen's one of Karen's courthouse events.
John O'Keefe and justice for Karen Reed. Because let's be clear about one thing. There is no justice for John O'Keefe without justice for Karen Reed. The two they cannot coexist without each other. They must be together. We are here tonight because we support John O'Keefe. Because we want the people who murdered John O'Keefe and who covered up his murder after the fact to be held responsible. And
so I wanted to show you just a little bit from his rolling rally, and you tell me, is he intimidating some witnesses?
Move up. You're taking up 2 spots. Push up. Yep. Yep.
Is this thing on? Yeah. All right, we'll wait for people to catch up here. But thank you guys all for coming here today. We got some Google. We got some free Karen Reed shirts, some Italian cold shirts. Thank you guys for coming. What's going on, everyone? So, people are going to be driving by like, what the hell's going on? So we're here to peacefully protest. So this is the home somewhere here. Hey, what's happening? Yeah. So we are peacefully protesting outside of the home of Brian Albert. We don't know if he's home right now. I don't see his cars here. I don't see his Cadillac.
Okay, so as you can see, he says that he is outside the home of Brian Albert on the streets with his bullhorn. Is that witness intimidation? Let's continue.
Why don't we follow me around back? We're gonna go around back real quick. Oh, look at a whole car, car. Isn't that cool? So, because this is where they park usually, so we're gonna walk back here. I do kind of feel bad for the neighbors, but sorry, murderers moved in, so it's unfortunate. You didn't sign up for this, but neither did Karen Reed, and neither did John O'Keefe. So, what do we got over here? Okay. Yeah, so they hit their.
Okay, so as you just heard him say, murderers, right? He's sorry for the neighbors because murderers moved in. Do you call that witness intimidation? So let's continue listening.
Hiding. I guess this is where they fled to.
Okay, so again, they live somewhere over here. I don't see any of the cars. I know what all their cars look like. One is a Cadillac, one is a Ford. Okay, I'm here, so that's fine. So we're still gonna protest and talk for a minute right outside of the front. So thank you guys all again for coming. We got a nice crowd here. So yeah, Brian Albert has fallen on hard times. He literally had to sell his home and move out here to Norwood because his house was literally a crime scene, and he knew, look at that, we got a Justice for John O'Keefe car. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. So, all right. So, I'm giving everyone kind of a chance to park. It's going to be tricky around here with all the people, and we're going through urban environments with a lot of folks. So, people catching up on the park.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and speed this up just a little bit, okay?
It's going to be interesting. Now, on the funeral for a New York police officer. They doing some drinking. They came back that night, and then they went out. They went to a bar called the Waterfall Bar, where they met up with another Boston police officer. What's happening? Named John O'Keefe. John O'Keefe was dropped off at their house afterwards, after being invited there.
Okay, so what is he doing here? He is currently just going over and he is just discussing what happened the night that John O'Keefe was killed. So he's storytelling on the streets of, well, Norwood. That's where Brian Albert lives currently. Is he doxing him by going to his house? Again, he's still on public streets. So is that witness intimidation? You're allowed to say what you want on a public street, right? Let's see if we can fast forward a little bit to see where they go next.
By a woman named Karen. Yeah, there's a lot more. We've grown. You're not fearing still. And please try to lay off the sauce when you sexually harass me, Jen, with various in towels, like free-range feral children. They appeared to be, you know, when I first heard this story, and he's a state trooper, so he knows that if he puts that up, then we cannot step on his property, which is fine. It also appears as if they've taken down the thin blue line flag, which is good, because Michael Proctor doesn't care about.
Okay, so now he is at Michael Proctor's house. They were on the street. There's no sidewalks there. Again, streets are public. Now, he did get charged with intimidating Proctor, but Proctor is a Massachusetts state police officer. Is that witness intimidation? Maybe, but those charges got dropped. But here he is at the home of somebody else. Is this harassment? Does this constitute a count for witness intimidation?
Murdered police officers who sacrificed their lives, and because he covered one up. Now he pretends to, because he arrested and charged a woman that not only is factually innocent, but that he knows is factually innocent. And I don't understand how any person can put someone in a box for the rest of their life knowing that that person did nothing wrong. Like the amount of ways that the man who lived.
All right. So is this investigative journalism? Is this going and showing and bringing awareness to the cause and recording it? Is this harassment? It can be many different things, but does rise to the level of witness intimidation. So unfortunately for Mr. Kearney, he has a lot of charges against him in reference to these witness charges. So, you know, you have to ask yourself, do you think it's witness intimidation? Remember, the rolling rally continued on. It was a whole day that they went to different people's houses and talked outside their house. They went to Jen McCabe's, they went to the other Albert's houses, etc., and made what's called this rolling rally, where they discussed the issues in the Karen Read case and whether or not what their implications were during this case. So, was he just doing his journalistic duties, or was he actually intimidating them? So, he got charged with these cases. And so, therefore, the district attorney's office chose not to prosecute him. Instead, they chose to have special prosecutors come in and prosecute Aidan Kearney. The first gentleman down here on your bottom of the screen is Ken Mello. Ken Mello started the paperwork. Unfortunately, Mr. Mello got sick, and they then had to bring on Robert Cosgrove. Robert Cosgrove is hilarious. He apparently was a judge. Obviously, he's been a lawyer for so many years. He is a retired judge, and he is doing his best to prosecute Aidan Kearney. He kind of acts like he doesn't know what he's doing, and he kind of fumbles around and takes a lot of time to go through motions. And he currently is dragging the case along. Pretty much every time that Mr. Betterow or Mr. Bradle, who are Aidan Kearney's attorneys, go ahead and file a motion, Mr. Cosgrove says it's going to take him weeks to go through it and respond. He currently hasn't responded to the last motion, which is the mega motion in Aidan Kearney's case, which is the mega motion to dismiss. They've had several dismissal motions that have not been heard. And it's a little discouraging, because you're like, how can they just continue to drag on these cases? Well, long story short, Mr. Cosgrove was sued in another case that Aidan had been involved with concerning his ex. Aidan had an altercation with his ex-girlfriend, and Robert Cosgrove was prosecuting the case. But in the twist, the ex-girlfriend ended up suing Cosgrove and others. Michael Morrissey, who is the head of the district attorney's office in Canton, or in Massachusetts. And then they became to be conflicted, and they ended up doing a no prosecutor, because that prosecutor, Cosgrove, had to recuse himself. And so then there was no prosecutor left to prosecute the case. So therefore they just said, oh, we're done. There's nobody to prosecute, or it's finished. Now, we're hoping that perhaps maybe this might happen in his witness intimidation cases, but so far, no luck. So what is going on currently right now? So the charges against him for witness intimidation have been going on for a very long time. He's had two special prosecutors in Massachusetts. They don't have a speedy trial. So Mr. Kearney's next court date is the mega motion to dismiss on December 5th in Norfolk Superior Court. So that's where we end. Let me know in the comments below whether or not you think that Aidan Kearney is going to be charged and convicted of witness intimidation, or if you think that he's just a goofy YouTuber and that he's just making content and just going out there spreading the word about Karen Read and her innocence. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe for more videos. Thanks again for tuning into Legalese 123. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. This was my first one, so give me a little bit of a break because I'm still working out technical difficulties. But we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.